Hello there, this is Jean from the Inky Studio. Today I'm going to be talking about my experimentation with beeswax, a really addictive process, and I'm going to, it's one that's been around and you can find lots of people who've done this, but I'm going to take it a little further today. I'm going to show the process very quickly, but I'm going to talk about ink settings and the papers. I'm going to talk a little bit about digital prints and scrapbook paper. We're going to experiment with those two ways of using this. And we're going to talk about colored prints and black and white prints. And then we're going to experiment with some ways to use the beeswax covered ephemera once you've done it. So let's get started with the first thing, and that is I'm just going to show very quickly, get out my little pad here, quickly how the process works. And you have to have parchment paper, very important. You'll need that to keep your surface clean. And you can use this parchment paper over and over and over again to keep doing this process with all kinds of projects. And when it dries up, you know, it's waxy on the inside, but you just keep it folded somewhere and you can just keep using it. And I'm going to get a digital here. Now this is a digital that I have printed on copy paper. And we're going to put it in there, and I have found that it's really good to have a lot of room around your image, because as you iron it, it can start seeping out outside the paper. So I would recommend have a nice space around your image that you're doing. Now I purchased beeswax on Amazon, and this is like a 2-pound pellets, and they're like little tiny pellets you get. And this is 2 pounds for like 10 bucks. I'll link down below where I sourced it. But that is really a lot of beeswax that I'll be using. But anyways, I didn't think it was too expensive. And then, so you start out with that, and you put in little pieces of your beeswax, little pellets. You just put a few around. Okay, you start out with a few. You don't have to load it up too much, and then you're going to fold your paper over. And you're going to take a hot iron, and what I like to do is I kind of like pounce on it a little bit just to get the beeswax pellets beginning to melt, and then you just press over it and keep on spreading it out. And you can tell that it's changing color. Now you can see, I'll open it up, where, you know, there's like a little bit here that hasn't gotten there. And I guess this image, I've used this paper so many times that you almost get to the point where you don't need to put much on it at all. If it's your very first one you've done, you do have to probably put a little bit more down. But I just change the direction of that a little bit and continue to use up all the beeswax inside there. Now wax is hot, so you do want to leave it just like a second or two, just a little bit before you touch it. And it dries up and cools off pretty quickly. And then I just take that and I put it on a scrap piece of paper, and I just let it dry. And it doesn't take long to dry at all, you know, 5 minutes and it's all dry, and the air conditioner just turned on and it's blowing around. So that is the process. It's very, very easy, and it is quite addictive. Yes, I just found myself doing all kinds of projects with this. So as you can see, now that it's beginning to dry off, it kind of gives that translucent. Now if you hold it up to the light, if I had like a light box, you could really see the translucency in it. Let me put it over a piece of paper here. So let me put it like over this. So now you can kind of see how that background paper is showing through. It's really a very fun. It's like vellum. It's like working with vellum paper is what it is. And it has a really nice creamy feel to it. It's pliable. You can fold it and do all kinds of things with it. I really like it. It's very, very cool that way. Now that's just, I just wanted to show you the process, just in case you needed to be reminded or you haven't seen it before. So now this is what I did. I did some experimenting with it because I wanted to see the difference between different settings and everything. So we'll just talk about ink settings real quick here. This is, I have 3 settings, and I have an Epson 2650 EcoTank printer. And this is the draft, and this is the standard, and this is the high. So these are 3 different settings that I have. And so I went ahead and I beeswaxed each setting just to see, you know, what kind of results I was getting. And now this is on plain copy paper and nothing fancy at all. And this here is the draft. And as you can see, the beeswax, you know, not only is beeswax translucent, so, you know, you can see through it now, where before you wouldn't be able to do that. It also darkens and deepens the color just a bit. And so the next one is the standard, and that one, hard to tell the difference here, is this one here. So that's the standard one, and here is the high one. So really, I have very little difference between the standard and high, and I'm thinking most of the time I'm going to start with the standard to see how happy I am with that, but it's pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty good, and it's pretty sharp. Now I will compare this with using my other paper, my higher presentation paper, Epson presentation paper, which is more expensive. I mean, it's a lot more expensive than copy paper, you know, 10 times the amount probably. And, you know, it's, of course, gotten more expensive like everything. But I do use that for my digitals because it just makes them very bright, vibrant and bright and clear looking, rather than copy paper. But I will show you just the difference. So here's the standard, and so we'll just compare these two. Now, you know, the color is going to be a little different because I have to really, there's a special setting to use with the presentation paper, but it really uses quite a bit of ink. And I just use the standard setting. But as far as clarity goes and everything else, there isn't a whole lot of difference. I mean, there might be a little bit sharper image on the presentation paper, but not really anything to, you know, quibble about. So yeah, the copy paper, and it's very exciting that I can use copy paper for this because it's a much more inexpensive material to be using. Now I will talk about the difference in texture, and this is something, you know, of course I can't really relay over the camera, but the copy paper is flexible, very flexible. But the higher you have the paper, and I do believe this is like 27-pound paper, the more like vellum you get. So this is very much like a vellum paper. It has the same feel, the same hardness or firmness as vellum paper does. And this is just slightly more flexible than that. So that would be the one difference that you would have from using and again, you wouldn't have to get the special presentation paper. You can just get higher poundage paper, copy paper that has a higher weight to it than the 22, which is just plain, you know, everyday 22. And the higher up you go, the more like vellum and the stiffness is going to be like. So that was my experience with working with ink settings and working with different papers. Now, if you want to know where I got this digital, this is from the Graphics Fairy Premium site. It's their tea bag envelope, in case you're curious. And so now we're going to talk a little bit about digital prints versus scrapbook paper, because many of you don't have access to digital prints, or you just don't have them, and such. So I have some here examples of scrapbook paper, and I've got a couple of weights of it. So there's scrapbook paper comes, you know, some of it's really heavy, some of it's real thin. So we'll just talk about those two things. So a thinner paper is much more translucent. All right, let's see if I can get something. Yeah, it's much more translucent, of course. So you're going to be able to see through it a lot better. It's going to work more like the ones I just did, the copy paper printouts. That's how that's going to work. And that's really kind of good news for me because I do have a lot of very lightweight scrapbook paper that really isn't, it's too light for me to really put in a journal. especially ones that I sell. And it's kind of light, too light really to make a card, and it just, there's limited how many purposes I can use for it. So this is great because it makes it less, flimsy, of course, when you put the beeswax on it. But it works the best, I think, when it comes to scrapbook paper for doing the beeswax method. Now this is a double-sided. It's not quite as heavy as perhaps, it's not as heavy as a cardstock. It is probably, I would assume, in the 40 range poundage, upper 30s, 40. But it is double-sided, so it is heavy. And as you see, there's really no translucence to it. But what was on the back now shows through the front, which is kind of cool, especially if you have like a figure on one side, then you have like a more of a graphic or a geographic design on the other side. It does kind of make it cool looking, and it has a really good feel. So the feel of this beeswax is really very pleasant. It's quite nice. It's very smooth. It just has a unique feel to it, but you cannot write on it. So if so like something like this that I'm making a tag out of, what I would recommend is simply taking paper and then just stapling it or putting in a eyelet or something to the back, and then the person can write on it that way. So that's how I would recommend making tags or cards writable if you wanted to do that. Okay, so that's scrapbook papers. So yeah, remember the lighter weight is really going to give you more of that translucent look to it. Then I wanted to experiment with gluing. So because it's waxy, I just wondered about glue. I found out that the glitter glue works pretty good. Now, if I were to force this, I could force it open, right? I could tear this and force it open. But it works just fine for putting something inside, and outside. It will hold together to put ephemera in and take it out. It'll hold fine with the glitter glue. I tried it with a glue stick, and that's a no-go. Glue stick really does not hold, so I think you kind of needed an all-purpose, quick-drying glue. I think Eileen's has one. I think might work just as well. A white glue. And then we're going to talk a little bit about distressing. So if you like distressing, you need to do it before, because afterwards the distressing will just rub off of the wax. So do it before, and you can see I've distressed here along all the edges, and that's how this comes out. Be careful how dark of a ink you put on here, because it will make it darker once you put the beeswax on. So this was a very light hand using the vintage photo. And and it's not the dioxide, because I do believe that would really be more intense. It's just the regular Tim Holtz ink pad. And I did it with a light hand, and it's dark enough for me. As far as gluing envelopes shut, to tell you the truth, I don't think I would do that. I would probably just put the ephemera in, put in a clip here, and clip it into the journal, just because to open it up is kind of cool to kind of see a design on this side, as well as this side. So that's just sort of a thought on envelopes. And let's see, so now we're going to talk about color versus black and white. So if you only have a black and white printer, and that's all you have available, do not despair, because you still can use this method and do some fun things with it. So these are just black and white prints, and again, these are from the Graphic Fairies premium site. And I should have printed out one that did not have beeswax, but this of course is much more intense than just on plain paper, and you can print this on copy paper again, but it gives you a nice, and this is on copy paper, it gives you a translucent look there. So if you have black and white, and you could even do this with a more of a plain color. So let's say we can put it against this plain color, And you can get like this really pretty blue kind of coming through on there. You know, it's rather pretty. You can change that up. Here, let's do it this way so you can see the difference. You can change up the look of that black and white with this really some pretty paper on the back of it. So you could make a tag out of your plain paper and then just put this like an overlay on the tag and put in your eyelet or staple or whatever on top, and it would be very pretty. So your black and white is fine. I mean, if that's what you have, I think you could still get some really fun results from this type of thing. Now, there are creators who have black and white digitals. A key word to look for would be ink saving. That's a key word to look for, to search for these black and white digitals. And I always go to the Graphics Fairy free site to see what kind of ephemera they have that's black and white too. I would check that out as well. You could also use it as a pocket, a real fun little pocket, and the darker your image behind it would show off even more, but that would be really cute. I have sewn this, but I think gluing would still work just fine. If not, you can always put like 2 eyelets or brads in here, but that is one use of it. I know we've covered envelopes, but just to show you that if you have something bright underneath of it, the window, it's really kind of cool the way that comes through. And also, if you had an envelope that didn't have anything on it, like a plain tea stain digital envelope, then it would really show everything inside. One other thing that I did was I got some washi tape, and a lot of digital designers have washi tape, and I cut out the sheets and did them up, and I found that this is a glitter glue, and I could force it, but it's on there pretty good. I mean, it isn't going to go out without some force, so that is kind of fun to use it like washi tape. I did use a glue stick, and just to show you that a glue stick really is not going to work all that well. So yeah, washi tape, I've been having fun doing that. So this is the way I'm going to be using it in my new journal that I'm just about ready to list on Etsy and do a flip through, probably later this week. It's a Tall and Skinny. I'm going to use this beeswax paper as a flip up. So I'm just going to go to a plain paper in here, a plain sheet. Doesn't have to be plain, but that's what I'm choosing to put it on. And I'm going to use it as a flip up. I'm going to take a piece of regular paper. It could be decorative paper. It could be any kind of paper. This is just tea stain paper in this instance. I'm going to go to the top, and I'm going to staple it on. All right, and this way I'm able to glue it securely onto the page without worrying about it breaking away, because we will be lifting this up, and if I just glued the wax to the paper directly, it may over time lift away. So this kind of gives it something to grip. And then once I have that secured, I'm going to put something to cover up the staples. Now, you wouldn't have to do this. You can leave the staples if that's the look you're going for, but I'm going to go for a little bit more feminine look. And I've got some lace here that I'm going to use. I'm going to put that right over. Whoops, am I out of camera? I'm sorry. I'm going to put that right over that paper, so that's there securely. And now we have a flip up, so when you write, you can see your words underneath. It'll be very lovely, I believe. Anyways, so that is just some things I wanted to show you to give you ideas, to get you started thinking about it. Beeswaxing these items is like a no-fail project. Honest to goodness, you really can't fail at it. And I'm hearing those that say, well, I will because I fail at everything. No, you don't. No, you won't. This will be a success. So we'll just go over real quickly. We talked about ways you can use it as envelopes, on pockets, as washi tape. You can use black and white and put a color behind it. It's just as lovely as using colored prints. And talked about bigger envelopes and maybe not gluing the envelope together, but just kind of using it to unwrap what's on the inside. We talked about distressing before you do the beeswax. Okay, so I think I covered it all. We talked about the different ink settings. And so I think we covered quite a bit today. So that's just to get you started thinking about beeswaxing. And I'll put those links down below. And so you have a happy crafting day, and we will talk to you real soon. Bye.